Accione. Welcome back to the show. This is a segment we are calling Total Campaign Makeover, where we bring progressive campaign experts, the best of the best, and we have them meet people's real campaign problems. And we actually have our very first guest on today, but first I want to introduce today's experts, first of whom is Annie Weinberg. Annie is an election strategist and campaign trainer, candidate trainer par excellence. I mostly know her from her work at Move On and DFA, always being the first person to know the cool kid when it came to any candidate. That's her. She has the first Facebook post with anyone who will become an important member of whatever. And then Fred Guerrier, who is a political filmmaker. He's actually, we talked about this. We actually spent time talking about this. Who is a filmmaker and is working in politics as a filmmaker at Rope Line Media, where he's a partner. And he and I have actually worked together on countless campaigns. We worked together on Bernie Sanders. We even worked with Kamala Harris. We worked with Gabby Giffords. We have sort of run the gauntlet and run the gambit and done the whole thing. And you two have accumulated experience and opinions. So we're going to bring on someone who has problems or things that, and in this case it's he, is thinking about. And so before he comes on, let me just say that Caleb Padgett is a student at Augusta University, and he is an incumbent senator. And so he is seeking re-election. However, his first election, and we'll check the facts with him, et cetera, et cetera. But he won an election in some sort of uncontested manner. I'm not sure if it's he got enough votes to get across the line because a number of people were voted on. I'm going to ask him to describe that right when I bring him on. But he is running again without having run the first time, and that does seem like a sticky wicket, and I think it's interesting, and I think it makes a great knot to untangle. So let's bring on Caleb Padgett. Caleb, hello. And Annie and Fred and I are here to listen, here to learn, and here to help. That is good. I liked all three of those things. That sounded good. You're going to need a slogan that's going to be as good as that on your campaign. Okay. But you heard me describing, is what I described right? You are currently, you are Senator Padgett. I mean, I guess I should address you formally by your title.
I guess I am. It's kind of hard to get, a little silly to get used to. But yeah, so basically what happened was I had seen about student government, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. Maybe take a look at that. But I had thought that maybe the deadline was too past, so I'd have to wait a whole other year. But then I overheard a friend of mine talking about how they know the student government president and how they were still looking for senators, that not enough people had run, really, to fill out the number that they wanted. And so I just contacted them, and they're like, oh, yeah, awesome. What college are you from? Okay, awesome.
And that's Augusta University. Can you describe Augusta University a little bit, where you attend?
Yes. So Augusta University, that's its name now. It's gone through a couple recently. It was Augusta State University plus the Medical College of Georgia, which fused together and became Georgia Regents University for a while, for a short time, because everybody hated that name. So now it's just Augusta University. It's a kind of mid-sized university. It's, if we're going off sports to indicate size, it is D2 in everything but golf. Golf is the only thing it's top tier in, sports-wise. It's got the Medical College of Georgia, so it's really important when it comes to that, state-wise, on the state level, when it comes to medical issues and nursing. But that's not what I'm going for, but...
Before we get specifically into what you're worried about in your race, Fred, do you have any questions just about background, or you feel like you got a good vision of the position, or do you want to hear more about his election?
No, I'd like to know what a senator does, and what you've been doing in your position.
Position and the power.
Yeah.
Because people are going to vote based on that.
Okay. Yeah. So I have yet to be able to actually look at the Constitution. They haven't sent it out to us yet. But basically, there are three branches, more or less. You have the senators, you have the 4 executive positions, and then you have the justices, which oversee the rules and elections and all that.
But what is the highest
senators,
you could hope to do? Is it budget? Like you control a certain amount of money?
yeah, so basically there are different committees you can be on as a senator, and one of those is the budget and allocation committee, which I'm looking at probably going to be going to that one, on that committee.
Are you currently on any committees at all?
Committees haven't been firmly decided yet because the elections just happened and the semester's about to end. So kids are going to be firmly joined in the fall semester.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's tough running without a record and without a legislative season swallowed up due to COVID, basically. You are a tired face facing a fresh electorate. Annie, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, I have a couple questions about the election process itself, too, and this is really helpful about the role. But I also want to know just a little bit more about you, Caleb, and your political sort of background. Like, what called you to run right now? Was your family pretty political? What can you just share us a little more about that origin story before we, yeah.
Roger Murdoch.
Well, I've been pretty political from a young age. If we want to go way back, then my earliest political stuff was just kind of parroting whatever my parents said. You know, growing up in a kind of conservative Southern U.S. family, so I was really into like, yes, McCain, Romney, and those elementary school elections. But then around 5th grade, I discovered
younger than we
certain
That was not who I got to vote for.
I was like, yeah,
Dukakis.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Me too. I remember. And we won.
my
Dukakis
chest
won.
hearing this, but okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, we interrupted. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're great. You're great. But then around 5th grade, I discovered certain kind of liberal, progressive YouTube channels, and then I got really into that kind of politics from there, and I stayed pretty kind of general, kind of liberal, left liberal from like 6th grade on to 2016, with kind of staying pretty like if the YouTube channels give you any that I watched to give you any indication, the Young Turks and Kyle Kulinski were the main ones. Then 2016 Bernie came about, and so I started kind of seeing myself as a social democrat. Give it another year or two, now I see myself as a communist. So just been that continuous leftward shift.
And that's something we talked about, was you were like, how do I introduce some of my, more left views, and will that be an attraction or turn off in my election? And I do think it's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost our man.
It's such a good question, though. Yeah.
He's a nice kid.
Yeah.
That's in the
I
right
don't know,
place,
like
yeah.
the whole story of like if he had to argue with his parents, if his parents are moving left with him, I want the whole narrative arc.
And what's interesting is to hear somebody talk about being brought to the left by YouTube, because that's not
Usually
honestly
how it
the
works.
normal story
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
of YouTube. YouTube is you go on there because you heard Christopher Hitchens as a funny anti-God joke, and you end up in Jordan Peterson's fan club, and it takes like a week, right?
All of
right?
a sudden, you learn
One
one
long
thing
night,
about Elon
yeah.
Musk, and then you're like, wait a minute, now I'm, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know about crypto. Now all of a sudden I'm like,
wanna do SpaceX.
I'm on some pages that I regret.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I regret my cert.
I'm
Yeah.
a founding member of something I don't want to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
Did you hit stop on us, Jacopo? Because this was gold. All this was gold. I think in the Star Trek universe,
Yeah.
it should be like, I don't know what the population of like the galaxy is or whatever, or the quadrant is. But if there's like a couple thousand teleporter accidents, it would A, be terrifying and mean there'd be anti-teleporter people everywhere, and B, not be enough to slow down the galactic economy. There would have to be like that level of acceptance of intolerance of the technology.
Right, because you would just be like deconstituted in space.
It's
That's
uploading
gross.
still somehow?
I do also think
he's back.
I'm back. I think it was mainly my Wi-Fi that was the problem.
There is our man, Havana. Here he is. Hey.
we got him.
Hi.
All right, Caleb, listen up. When last we were talking, you were telling us about your origin story and some of your lefter views. And I had said that one of the things that you had asked me about was how can and should you express that in your campaign. I'm especially interested from a storytelling standpoint what Fred and Annie think about this. But both being your authentic self and obviously running on what you believe in, because I think we think that that matters. But then also sort of not being maybe deliberately provocative. And now I'll back up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fred, what do you think?
I'd like to know about like the student body, and in general, I think I agree you should run as yourself and bring your true views to the table. But it also may be an asset that these are people who don't really know what being a communist means, aside from like the scary big C that they've heard, from their parents, perhaps. So maybe it might be an opportunity to teach these kids, some who may be communists without knowing they are. So that might be an asset.
Educational platform. Mm-hmm. What about the student body, Caleb? What are they like?
It's pretty diverse. Augusta's in what's called the CSRA, the Combined Savannah River Area, which it's right near Fort Gordon, which is the head of like U.S. cybersecurity stuff. And so there's a lot of people from all over the country. Like one of my best friends was born in China. Another one of my best friends is German, and he moved here because his dad's a VP of accounting for some company. Very diverse area. And so, yeah, same with the student body. There's a lot of black students, a lot of Asian students. Yeah.
What do you think, to follow up, the word communism means to them? Right? Is this going to come off as sort of like half-assed rebellion, something actually scary, or actually sort of like, ooh, tell me more about that?
I think at the very least, initially, it probably either come off as, well, of course, it's a very diverse student body, so people would have different reactions, but I think it mainly fall into a couple or a few different camps. Either one, it'd be the, communism bad, spent my entire life hearing about how communism's bad, so, and associate with all the stereotypes, all the, hyperbolic rhetoric that gets thrown around.
Mm-hmm. Red
Two,
Scare stuff.
Yes, Red Scare stuff. Another camp that people might fall in is completely associating it with, oh yeah, I have a friend who read A People's History and was really annoying, pointing out everything that's wrong with everything. To me.
Everybody's bad college boyfriend or whatever, right? Who's like, this is what I'm about, and like, yeah, totally.
Yes, that could be another camp, and then
or like the longest environmental justice club meeting, where you're like, this meeting will never. This is just, will we ever? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then like a third camp, people might fall in. I'm not sure what percentage of people would fall into any of these camps, but the third camp people might fall into is, oh, well, I've heard people like Bernie or AOC talk about socialism, so I know socialism isn't that scary. What about communism? So I'm not sure what the breakdown would be, which people would be in what group, how many would be in what group, but I think those are some groups people would probably fall into were I to be very open and brazen about that identification during the campaign.
Yeah, no, and those two things are different, I think, in terms of public consciousness. But no, that for sure is a point well taken. And the one thing I want to say before turning it over to Annie for questions or comments is, seems to me like if you were doing an educational thing, like kind of working backwards from the campaign and sort of rolling out the things you believe in, but in very small ways around, even in the university, whether it be free books, or free public transportation, I don't know if there's a fee associated with something, something that can be universal, right? Not just to benefit people who need it or something that, but something that actually does speak to your values of actual universal benefit, but make it very small and actually sort of lay those things out and sort of be reminiscent of the Milwaukee sewer socialists, who sort of embrace the model of being socialist by being like, and we fix the toilets. Like, who else is going to do that for you?
Yeah.
Annie, what do you think?
Totally. I was going to say, building on this concept of, some of the other political leaders we talked about, right, that both Bernie and AOC are very skillful and intentional about sharing stories rooted in people's actual lives that they're trying to represent, right? They are not the hero of the story in most of the communications that they're doing. They're talking about real humans that live in the district or people that they are working with and building with, and they are the heroes, right? They're the ones that are making choices to improve their lives or the lives of people in communities they love, right? So, thinking about what that looks like for you in terms of what students are dealing with right now, that you would be poised to help. Like, I'm sure it's been an intense and traumatizing time with COVID everywhere. I don't actually know if your campus was open or closed or if it was doing both, right?
A mix of the both.
Yeah. Which is also interesting because this next election, was the last election, everybody was remote, and this one, people will actually be back in the same physical space.
So last one, voting was online, but I think you were able to kind of do some limited events in person to kind of drum up interest, but the actual voting was completely online.
Okay.
I mean, to build on what Annie's saying, I think it would be cool to associate a character who's a real person. I'm just an obnoxious person who says character. Fred does it too. He uses character for real people occasionally. But like, so it's not you. It's not the Caleb show. It's like, hey, we're going to talk about like minimum. What can the university offer as a minimum wage, and actually want you to meet, this janitor who you all know, and actually, did you know that they're living on this amount of money? The university. This is a great school. There's no reason why we can't afford better than that.
Right.
Yeah. Sounds awesome.
Or like expanding scholarship, looking at scholarship funding or program, how they administer funds or
how they're
programs.
funded is really interesting, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there are campaigns.
Totally.
The
And I
meaning
think,
testing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm really interested to actually. They haven't sent out the actual constitution yet of the student government, so
I love that. Flying
I'm
blind.
really waiting for that.
Yeah.
Really excited for that to actually be able to actually see what I'm working with from that. Because when I actually went to the website for student government, like, it was sparse. Like, it still had even.
Oh, now there's an emperor. I wonder what that person does in relation to the Senate.
Wait a minute.
Huh.
Primus inter pares.
Yeah. This new constitution's strange. Yeah. What are some of the things you'd want to do? Sorry, Fred, I interrupted you.
That was a question I was asking. Like, what are you hoping to do?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, anything I'd say here would just be, kind of work in progress ideas, because I haven't really had the chance to
Bounce them off. We'll tell you if they're sticky.
Bounce them off, or to gauge a lot of interest within the wider student body for these ideas. But I'm personally looking for a job at the university to maybe like tutor or whatever. So maybe a minimum wage for that if students are looking to either do like some receptionist work at the school in order to make some extra money, or to tutor at the school, maybe have a base minimum wage for that.
So more employment at a certain wage offered by the university as a point of order.
Yeah, see, that's certainly an idea. I've heard a lot of my colleague senators talk about transportation fees and parking as an issue that has gotten them.
I like that, actually. I feel like that's got legs.
What else? One of my colleague senators has talked about just completely revamping the way that certain programs are funded in the first place by student government. Certain clubs and things are or funded just revamping that entirely. Which I haven't really had a chance to listen to him go in more in depth as to what he meant by that, but that's certainly a possibility. Yeah, I mean, right now I'm just open to hearing any and all ideas because, yeah.
I've got a couple more too. Yeah.
Me too. I got a couple more.
I don't want to take anyone else's time though. Does anyone else have something they want to say?
Yeah. I have a question, both logistical and strategic, which is just to get the lay of the land. Is there a relationship between the student government and the faculty? How do professors and teachers interact with the student government? And are there things, campuses are the hub of a lot of different kinds of organizing around justice-focused and expansive curriculum, and around TAs and labor rights and workers' rights. Like, what are the faculty thinking about and organizing on as well? So those are sort of two different questions.
It's interesting because it's an interesting triangle, isn't it, between administration, faculty, and students? It's a real feudal system.
And everybody else that works at the school, right? All the janitors and people who work in the cafeteria, everybody, as well. But.
Yeah, so when it comes to the actual order of hierarchy, you have the university itself at the very top. Obviously, administration and all that. Then underneath that, you have you have student government, you have president's cabinet, and you have the staff and faculty council. And I haven't been able to become really familiar with certain faculty-student government interactions yet. I mean, I was just inaugurated a few weeks ago. But, I think certainly there is a close relationship, or there should be a closer relationship, working relationship. Because, I mean, as the student government president said a week or two ago when we were having a student government meeting, we're kind of the ones that are the reasons why the university exists in the first place.
Yeah.
No university if there aren't students.
Right, you're not customers. I think that's sort of the line that sometimes it gets straddled as in education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The more I'm listening to you, the more I feel like you shouldn't worry about the incumbent thing really at all. And it's just there was some weird thing, I'm running for this thing. I don't think it's going to even play into it. I think it's just about what you believe and what you want.
Yeah, and I think I'm all about just using the thing that you think is going to be your crutch as an asset. Like, you were interested enough to join the student government. That gives you a leg up. I think that's part of the narrative you want to go with, right?
Huh. Yeah.
And so I'm an incumbent because I was interested enough to serve on this body. In this body.
Yeah. You may not know it, but I actually am a sitting senator because I actually gave a crap enough to sign up, and not enough people did. But let's get serious and get something done.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I also want you to get a Google Voice number or something and put things up around campus where people can just complain about things.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and then take the best complaints and you can make them into anonymous tweets or whatever, or even collect the audio, make a little audio, slideshow kind of thing of gripes about campus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, specificity is always going to be good, right? Like a specific problem, a specific issue that you want to focus on. So it's
whatever,
not big labels, but
rolling
specific.
out the issues.
Right.
Yeah, what's wrong with the bus system on campus? Let us have it.
Right.
Not let us have it. You say let them have it. That's what I mean about the incumbent thing. I think you say let the university have it. I don't think you take ownership of that. I don't think you take ownership of it.
Yeah. And I would love to know
Mr. Senator.
what Arun and Fred think about it, but it sounds like you're also in a phase where a sort of deep listening drive would be helpful. So what you're saying with the Google Voice could be part of it, but also
active listening.
Yeah, that you are trying to ask a big number of people and constituencies on campus, what do you want to see the student body, the student government fighting for, and what could we change that would make your experience that much better or easier or more meaningful at Augusta, right? You can workshop the actual way that you ask the question, but I don't know if there's a Greek system on campus, but I bet the answers of the folks that are a big part of that might be different from the folks that are, part of different clubs and communities, right? I think some of that deep listening plus a little bit of a map of who is there on the campus and part of that community of your stakeholders,
Yeah. No. I want to build on that because that's very smart. I couldn't agree more. And I think like in an election where the margins are not going to be big, in which you just need like getting small pools of people who otherwise wouldn't participate because you've talked about their pet issue is the easiest way to actually like jump several points ahead. And this is actually something that like all candidates can learn from, which is that like, I have a complex worldview. It's like nobody cares. People care about one thing that's the most important thing to them. They're going to vote on it. Like somebody can't afford college. Somebody just had a heart attack. There's a reason why healthcare and education score so highly. Somebody really cares about guns because of gun violence in their family. Like there's something that makes somebody care about an issue. And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's diabetes, like single issue voting. It's, veganism. It's animal people. Animal people are the best example. Talking about the Dutch elections where you have the actual whole animal party. Where animal people stick together and they vote on one thing, animals. I dragged a Texas candidate on our way to a shelter, and he didn't like cats, but he liked dogs. Okay, they had no dogs, and he was like, I don't want to pose with a cat. And I was like, you just got to do this. And as if fate itself wanted to prove me right, the very first comment on the Facebook post, like with him cuddling with his cat at the ASPCA or whatever it was I'm a Republican but I'm voting for you because you give a crap about animals and like that. And I've never heard your opponent say one word. And that's it. So so if you, as Annie says, map out some of these issues on campus, and it will be food, and it will be bikes, and it will be things like that, you can get pockets of people who otherwise couldn't give a crap about a student election, but will walk through glass if it's something to do with bikes.
Yeah.
And they believe you, and they trust you, that you're going to do the thing that you said you would do.
Because you were there talking about their issue. It was like not just, And at campus, it's easy because there's a million clubs. You just look them up. You make your list, and then you're like, okay, what is this? All right, do you mind if I come speak at your club? They're thrilled. And now it's easy because it's a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
That's true.
Do 5 of those a night. Can you imagine, Fred? We used to do 5 states a day, and that was a huge pain in the ass.
Let's do 5 calls, yeah.
Yeah, 5 calls. This is better. All right. Well, thank you so much. We are running out. We're out of time a couple minutes ago, but we enjoyed talking to you. And when will be a good time to check in to see how it's going? Maybe like midwinter?
Let's see. Well, the actual next elections, I think, are just going to be next spring, because I think
it's not going to be till spring, right?
Yeah,
so you don't have to really
'cause
start thinking about things until the winter, right?
Yeah, because I think I'm incumbent until next spring. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you got to do between now, and I'll give everybody a last word before we'll totally cut out. But what you got to do between then and now is do this mapping and do this listening and do this hanging out with folks, because you're maybe thinking about because you are a sitting senator. And you're like, I feel like I should know the school better. You have a reason to be places, and you're not really running for anything right now, so it's not like this guy's just doing it to get 10 votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, get those little pockets of votes, and then when it actually becomes go time, you've got like a network of single-issue voters activated. All right, last word, Fred or Annie, what do you think?
I just think that plan you just laid out is totally right, and it'll also help you clarify your priorities and what you want to fight for, given the values that you talked about.
That's true.
And because you're going to hear some things that you're like, I don't actually want to do that, right? There's going to be some things that you're like, I oppose that, as you're doing some of that listening, and that also will be clarifying for you about what the stakes are and the different vision that you're putting forth. So I feel like it's that phase now of that deep active listening and that sort of mapping of the power and the constituencies on your campus. And then the next phase will be sort of the priorities that you can then legitimately say that you got from them, right? It came from the people of what you're going to fight for and build in Augusta. So, but good luck.
Based on what you heard, Fred, and you can answer a different question if you'd prefer, but do you have any ideas about some of the content that he might use when it is runtime, or does your director's mind jump at anything?
Well, initially, when you mentioned that you were communist and you weren't sure how that was going to land, I was thinking, yeah, maybe use that. Like, I'm a communist and this is what I can do. Like, get, general big C communist, but then I do this very specific thing for you, right? Or like tell them what a communist is, but like very, very simple, small, specific things, like incorporating what Arun and Annie were saying. Just like, you know, if you want to get funny with it, you know, get the hat, get the mustache, but say like, you know, you're going to do these very specific things that's going to make people's lives better. But I'm a communist, you know, big, scary communist, but I do these things.
Yeah, maybe have like a
Yeah.
a flyer or something like, you know, I'm a communist, and for me that means community.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
It will get attention.
It's Cyrillic.
It will. It will.
Yeah.
It will get attention.
Just all bright red.
All right. Thank you again, Caleb. And we will follow up with you for sure. And Annie, Fred, really nice to see you.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming on the inaugural edition of Total Campaign Makeover. Yeah. And I hope we can have you back on sometime.
I'd love that.
Thanks.
Good luck, Caleb.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you all.
Thanks, y'all.